Hello, welcome back, everyone.
What up, saucers?
What up, players? Today we have an amazing episode I'm really excited about.
Yep.
We have Kenecia Lashae on, and she is beauty expert and travel enthusiast. She's creator of Passport to Pretty. It's a travel blog. Technically, it is your digital passport to travel, beauty, and wellness. She has cultivated this brand and this career centered around exploration of different cultures, different beauty rituals, wellness rituals, and just bringing that expansive mindset to people in our country who are bogged down by 9 to 5 or think they can't live that way or think that lifestyle is relegated to white little blogger girls on Instagram or, somebody with a lot of money, or there are ways to experience the world in a really soul-centered way, and I think she's doing an incredible job.
Fixing yourself from the inside out, which is so important. And if you're feeling a shift right now, because it is happening, and everything that Kenecia does is just, it's a solution to everything that you could be, you have anxiety about, you know, and especially as women.
Yeah, I am so grateful she agreed to come on, and without further ado, we'll welcome her on the show. Welcome, Kenecia. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yay!
Thank you for having me. I appreciate you.
Of course.
am so excited to have you on.
Yeah.
We were just talking before we started recording, but for the listeners, I heard Kenecia on a beauty podcast over a year ago, and you were specifically talking a lot about how you wanted to normalize, I guess, but just highlight that the wellness, the travel blog space in particular is not owned by white people, because it's a lot of just like white bloggers. I just have this image in my mind of like a really tan, blonde, skinny girl with a yoga mat. But I know it's more expansive than that, but it's kind of been commandeered in that way in the blog space, especially Instagram and social media. And in this interview I was listening to of you, I think last summer, you were like, I just want to show Black people like this is our life as well. We can live this way. And that, I loved that. And so that was my first introduction to you. And then since then I've been following you on Instagram and reading articles about you. And then, so when you agreed to come on, I had a little nerd moment where I was like, oh my God, she said yes.
You were so sweet. Cut it out. I love the idea of your podcast. And when you invited me, I immediately heard Rihanna's SOS. I'm like, SOS, someone help me.
That's exactly
I was like, okay, this is a vibe. So I'm absolutely excited to be here. And, thank you for supporting, moments in my career when I'm not there, when it's, a year old or 2 years old. Definitely, that podcast that you mentioned definitely sounds like me. I think that the world is diverse. I know that inclusion and diversity is a huge buzzword, and it's just always been a part of my life. Just from the beginning, I've been around so many cultures, but it was not until I became an adult that I actually was able to embark on this amazing travel journey. And it's crazy. It's just a lot of winding roads that always pointed from just being a young child and always being the one begging my mom to let me go on road trips. I did not beg for Barbies. I begged for road trips. And because I was a pretty funny and fun and cute kid, aunts and uncles would take it upon themselves. I mean, they regretted it later. I was 2 handfuls, but, just always had a very curious nature, about people and things, and did my best not to let society define what, life meant to me or how I saw the world, which is still very challenging, but it was just my curiosity. If you say it's blue, I'm going to go and inspect it myself. But in order to do it, I have to have the courage and the, the bravery to actually get there and see it for myself. And that's a large part of just, who I am as a person, as a woman,
I think it's also interesting that as a child, because curiosity as a child is one thing, but the understanding that there's more out there that you don't understand and more to see is a step beyond curiosity, because you can be curious and still not understand that there's more outside of your hometown. But, the understanding that like, what else is out there? I want to see more from a very young age I love that.
And it's so relatable. There's so many people that can relate to that. And that kind of almost answers this question, or it leads into it really well, is how did you get into this space of beauty and specifically wellness as well?
And like, if you have an SOS moment that kind of like really finally made you be like, I'm going to take the leap and start this brand myself.
Ladies, as a woman of color, of color, there are SOS moments. There's SOS moments happening behind this camera right now.
Right.
Y'all don't see them, okay? There's a SOS at every turn, at every corner, every avenue, like whatever you want to say. I will answer the first part of your question about, more so the inspiration. I came from a family of hard workers and entrepreneurs in their own right. My grandma operated and co-owned a barbershop for 22 years.
Wow.
And she was the only lady barber in there for the majority of those years. I think towards the later part, there were one or two women that joined. And so, I was always at the barbershop, and the barbershop is just kind of the nucleus, in my opinion, for a lot of conversations in the Black community. Yeah. You learn a lot, some things you didn't need to learn at that time, but there were a lot of conversations around politics and economics and things like that. So I got to see my grandmother operate this business in our community. And she also sold Mary Kay.
She was Mary Kay. Oh,
that's
wow.
amazing. On the East Coast.
Still, my mom was like, where'd you get that? And I was all like, Eckerd's, which was just like really like old school drugstore. And she was like, you didn't get it from Eckerd's because it has your grandmother's name and address. Not my best shining moment, but again, being curious and kind of not letting anything stop me. And if it means committing a petty crime,
Oh, we've all been there. Oh my God. I've been there.
Yep. You know the vibes. I mean, everybody's, done something.
Is this, her barbershop was on the East Coast, right?
I'm actually from Texas.
Oh, you are from Texas. Okay, you're from originally.
My family is, from New Mexico and Texas. And so I was born and raised in Fort Worth, Texas. And her barbershop was on the south side of Fort Worth, Texas. And, I would go there practically every Friday, sometimes weekends, when she would keep all the cousins. And we had an opportunity to see entrepreneurship and beauty, even though it was mostly barbering. Some women did come in and get their haircuts. Yeah. So I got to see kind of, not knowing, that it was entrepreneurship, but essentially it was. And then just different members in my family would have endeavors and dreams. Like my aunt was an amazing hair braider. And I don't think she ever got formally trained, but she always braided our hair, and she would braid other people's hair, and she would make money on the side. So I knew that appearance was important. I knew that to some degree, occupying yourself with something productive was important. And, I can't say that I understood the importance of money when I was so small, but I knew something was exchanged. I knew something about value, right? Right. So I think that's where the curiosity or the aspirations of beauty and, hard work kind of came into play for me.
I love that. Did you, before you started Passport to Pretty, what were you doing and what made you just really dive into that?
Girl, I was doing the most. I mean, when you're a young girl that's curious, you're trying so many different things. I had so many different types of jobs, and a lot of times I would have 3 jobs at one time. So I really didn't understand that, you could have a career in beauty. I did not understand the concept of a makeup artist. It just was not something that was presented to me at the time. I mean, I just never put 2 and 2 together. I read a lot of magazines, Vogue and Ebony, Essence. It just never actually clicked. I think for me, once I graduated college, I went into the workforce. I was working for a bank that was based in Texas, and they serviced mostly our military. And one day, my alarm clock went off probably at 6 a.m. And I remember just rolling over, looking at it, thinking like, what the hell is this? Like, what the hell is getting up at 6 a.m. to do something that you really don't love and that you don't care about? I don't know. I mean, when you say SOS, that was a moment, though I was, young and hungry to work and to, prove myself, I just knew that
that's not it.
Something about this ain't it. This not hitting like it's supposed to be hit. This not lit, And so I think from there, I started to do things like look at my makeup collection and try to like buy pieces from like Ulta at the time was like a really big deal. Sephora was very small. We had one Sephora. So I would go and like, save up or, budget between like, some things that I needed like rent, and a lip liner, right? That I was really curious about. And just started reading information. And then I said that if I'm going to be a makeup artist, I have to talk to other makeup artists. And I remember a young lady whose name is Amber. I still remember her name. I actually found her on Instagram last week for the first time. She was a makeup artist and she gave me so much information, and she had a write-up in 17 magazine. And so I was extremely inspired by her. And I remember sending her an email and, her asking like, well, what do you want to do? And I'm just like, well, I think that I'm going to move to Atlanta or New York and be a makeup artist. And the craziest part of that manifestation, was that I actually lived in Atlanta just before I came to New York. And I was working as a makeup artist. Benefit Cosmetics gave me an opportunity. I really had my eyes set on MAC because that was like the cat's meow back then. Eventually I got a job at MAC in Atlanta, Georgia. And, I worked there for about 2.5 years until I decided that, hey, if you're really serious, it's either LA or New York. And I had several friends from college, high school that were already in New York doing it big, looking like bosses. So I said, hey, I have never had a down feather coat before because I never needed one. Right. But I'm packing up and I'm moving, to New York. And it was not the most smooth move. It was very clumsy. I think I had $300 in my pocket, which is, in some stories more than other people. When you have a dream and you have a feeling, you just go for it. And I slept on my sister, I call her my sister, Brandy. I slept on her couch for like 3 months. I mean, we partied and hung out, but I also like freelanced in Sephora for, for brands like Tarte. And, they were paying me like $20 an hour just to like help sell the brand. And Tarte was very innovative,
like massive brands.
They were called like, I can't remember the exact tagline, but they were a vegan line that was high performance. Cause usually when you think about vegan, you think about, this is a little granola. It's going to look like,
no like color payoff and like none of that.
There's like dirt on my cheek that's kind of trying to pass off as bronzer. So shortly after that, I got to New York City in May of 2008, I want to say. And then in September, because I was so faithful with Tarte, they asked me to join Charlotte Ronson's Fashion Week show at the tents in Bryant Park, girl.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
So that was an SOS too. Cause I know that SOS may be like kind of emergency help, but that was kind of like, hey, you're about this life.
An epiphany is an SOS moment too. Like
any shift.
So yes, I actually got to work in the tents in Bryant Park. I mean, here I am, just this little, girl from Texas who graduated from Texas Southern University and HBCU school where we didn't have like, a program that, appreciated necessarily like the arts or beauty or anything like that. I got a degree in business with a minor in marketing. Like, I don't know how I got here, but I am in these tents and I'm working with like Charlotte Ronson and Lindsay Lohan, pulled up, and it was just amazing. And not only that, Paper Magazine did a 2-minute and 23-second video where I popped up at the ends and I had my like cool haircut and my blonde hair. And I was like,
oh shit.
And Paper Magazine.
Yeah. 223 is very, very, I lost the word, but 223 is a very special number for me because it's my birthday. It's February 23rd. And so it just felt like, hey, you're here. And you got work to do. And so from there, I worked on MTV projects. I worked on a reality show that, aired on BET. I was assisting an amazing makeup artist named Alana who, was really helpful and just so supportive and everything. So I kind of, once I got to New York, it was on, it was on, so many cultures and so many worlds collide, there's fashion, beauty, sports, music, there's education, and all of my peers did something amazing, so I had to like, also step into my power and say like, yeah, this is what I came here to do.
Yeah.
I came to do it. I'm here. So
the travel,
amazing.
had you, in your childhood or up until that point, had you traveled a lot internationally, or was that like a new endeavor at the time?
Okay, glad you asked. So boom, right? I'm in New York, and Nasheed Roswell asked me to, do makeup for a project. The photographer was a photographer from Italy, from Milan, Italy. And his name was Marco Bertoni. And while we were, working, he was speaking about Italy. And I was obviously like, wow, I've never been. I want to go. And he said, you know what? You got to come. No, seriously, come to Milan. We're going to work together. Let's do this.
Oh my God.
And I was like, yeah, are you serious? And no, he stayed in touch with me, and he was like, this is what it is. So
wow.
I remember arriving to Italy with my little Italian, translator book.
Yeah. Yes.
And
where's the bathroom?
My little cape. Yeah. And I actually worked on several shoots with him. I met another amazing photographer by the name of Michael. We also worked together, and that kind of opened my world up for travel, because I think before, as also an SOS moment, being a freelancer, being independent, you really don't want to leave, because if that call comes and you miss it, you're going to be quite upset with yourself.
Yeah.
So I would never leave New York. I would never leave. I didn't visit my family for a long time. I didn't take any like unnecessary trips. It was really hard to kind of like pull me away. And I felt in some ways just bound. I didn't have that freeness that I think I sought. And so going on that trip, where I was supposed to stay for 2 weeks and I stayed a month, really opened it up. And that was my first international travel.
Okay.
Of course, I've done like road trips and things, to the beach, and, a flight to, American city here and there, but this was my first time using a passport.
Yeah.
And before I got my passport, I never thought about it. I don't even know if I knew that you needed a passport. I mean, I probably thought to myself, oh, that's silly. Like, who owns the world? Like, why do you need to like,
Right.
And I read a book by Shea Youngblood, who's out of Brooklyn, and it was called Black Girl in Paris. And y'all, the cover,
that sounds familiar.
So beautiful. So beautiful. I think I have the book somewhere in here, but it is such a beautiful book. It is such
is it a novel,
an interesting story. It's a novel. It's about a young girl who's from the South, who just really was fed up with life, and wanted to do something different. So she, moved to Paris with like way less money than I had, in her pocket, and experienced, lots of things, good and bad. She fell in love. She experienced racism. She experienced sexism. She experienced, working, low wages. She experienced art. She experienced music. She met like James Baldwin, like it was just such a riveting story of like just life, And so being in Europe at that time and being a makeup artist and working was like, this is surreal. This feels like, some like type of championship that I won. And nobody's clapping, but like, I know I won. Yeah. I know I won. Yeah. And that kind of started my love for travel. And I would set aside money. And I think Jamaica was next. Jamaica was the next place. And then Montreal, Canada, I took a train ride about 13 hours from Penn Station all the way up to Montreal, and experienced, a different culture, different food. I met so many new people and friends and people that I still keep in touch with today. So that catapulted. Through that time, I worked for some amazing brands, launching products into the market and training other makeup artists on how to use and sell the products. And so one day I looked up and I did have all this money. I had worked really hard, but I was also having a true SOS moment where it felt just like adulting gone wrong. Like, I think I lost my way somewhere back there. Should I turn around and like take a left instead of a right? I had no idea what to do. And like, I don't think that I had anybody around me that could guide me, because I am the strong friend. I am the strong person. I am the independent. I am that girl.
You're the one that comes to everyone else's aid when they're lost.
And it's not that, at the time, it's just that nobody had ever been a freelance makeup artist in New York City. So who was going to tell me what? Yeah. And so this was a huge SOS moment. I used to hang out a lot. I used to be at every party. You know, I used to be in VIP everywhere. I used to be with the celebrities. I used to be with the hot boys and the hot girls. Like, you know, that was my life, dancing on top of couches, still getting the job done. But I think when you think about it and you're really honest with yourself, it's pretty empty. It has its place and time in your life, but it's really like rather empty, you know?
It's not sustainable.
Yeah, I don't know why they call it a club. I mean, you don't get any type of membership value out of it, but like, you know, like
So
whatever.
True. Yeah, why
You know?
That's interesting.
Yeah. And certainly no judgment for people who are, you know, still living that life. I went through it. I had a great time. But I really looked around and I felt like this insane amount of like just emptiness. And even though I had money and had the clothes and had the hair and the nails that I wanted, I didn't feel like I had the self-confidence. I didn't feel like I had the vision. I didn't feel like I was even inside of my body. And so I started doing yoga and meditation again, something that I had done in college that was kind of like weird to some of my peers. They were like, what are you doing? Like,
it was way before it was kind of mainstream.
Yeah, it wasn't, you know, and even some instances, because I at the time belonged to the church, and they would say things like, you know, about it being evil and, you know, about it being, you know, all those things.
Yeah,
so,
like false idol kind of thing. Like,
you know, you've heard it, you know the vibes. And so, you know, I turned to yoga and meditation just to calm my mind. I think I had a lot of anxiety. I think my mind would race. I think that sometimes I would jump to conclusions. And again, going out and consuming alcohol is not going to be the problem. You know, going to fancy restaurants is not going to solve your problem. So I got back into meditation, yoga, and I was still always a part of the travel community at that point. I think I had been to like, I don't know, 16 countries or something like that at that point, right? And so I was, you know, I had a little bit of travel under my belt, but nothing to write home about. But I said, I think I need to travel again. I think I need to go back and connect with the world at large. I think I need to go and explore.
Like feel your place in it again.
Yeah, feel my place, you know, be present, because that's a huge thing. A lot of times when you're anxious or depressed, you are in the past or you're like way ahead of the future. Two things you do not have much of control over, right? And so I said to myself, like, all right, if I'm going to travel, let's not make this like, ooh, look at me, or I'm the bomb, you know, I'm pulling up to this like, Prague, you can't even spell Prague. You know, I'm not trying to do that. I really wanted to be intentional. So I chose India, and I chose a yoga and meditation school in Rishikesh, India, which sits on the foothill of the Himalayan mountains. You know, I thought to myself, like, oh my gosh, you know, how am I going to tell, like, you know, my family and friends that, you know, I'm packing up and I'm literally like leaving. And so I just waited to the last minute. But I told them, and, you know, I think they thought, okay, well, you'll be back in a month. And that month really turned into 2 years. And I explored spirituality from all different types of countries and communities, and how they dealt with stress. When I was in India, a woman who I passed by every day on the way to school would wave at me, and she was so sweet. And she was always making these flowers that were used for spiritual rituals. And, you know, she would kind of weave them together and have stacks of them. And that was her contribution to the community. And she had daughters. I remember seeing her family, you know, every day, and she would always wave to me. And while I was there, and I was there for 30 days, her husband died, you know? Her husband died, and the community just really gathered, created a safe space for her. And they had beautiful ceremonies around this death. And of course, she was still sad. Of course, you know, there were tears and screams and things like that. But just seeing how you have that outpour of community support and the rituals behind sending, you know, her loved one on was very unique and special to see. And so I just started to explore how people around the world dealt with stress. And of course, there was beauty involved. I went to a lot of spas and wellness centers and indulged in more massages than I can count. You know, Bali, Indonesia, going to a spa there. And I was sitting in the spa from 9 to 5, like a job.
That was, I saw an article that had to write, you were talking about that. And at the time, I don't know when this article was published, it was a couple of years ago, but you said that was the best spa experience you had ever had was in Bali. I don't know if it's the same one, but you said it was like a whole day, 9 to 5.
Yes. It was like, when somebody says 9 to 5, you're like, nah, it's not, I'm not trying to do that. I'm trying to do that 9 to 5. Like that 9 to 5 was everything.
Yes, please.
Literally just luxury, but in the most simple form. And I mean, I got like tucked, plucked, sucked, rubbed, all for the amazing fee of like $108 or something like that. You know what I mean? Like it was incredible. I mean, I got my nails and I got a facial. I got a chakra massage where they actually dripped warm oils and essential oils at every point of my chakra. They massaged, detox. Wow. I got a flower bath. I mean, I still remember it. I got a spa lunch, which was like 4 courses.
Oh my
It was just a fantastic, amazing, epic experience. Wow. And I realized like how important wellness is. If you were to get something like that done here in New York City or any part of the country, really, you better be prepared to pay probably a couple of thousand, just for that experience for 9 to 5,
Oh my God.
And so I've always had a dream to own a wellness center. It is, the type of place where you can get a manicure, sure, but you can also get some meditation. You can also get some community. That is like a huge goal of mine. I'm actually surprised that I haven't made it happen yet, but you see what I do with my money.
Well, I'm sure you will.
But also that manifestation thing, speaking it and saying what you want, that it's going to happen for you.
Yes,
100%.
Indeed.
And it sounds like everything happened so naturally, like it flowed, like when you organically think it, like everything from needing to find more answers to cure stress or treat stress, and then still having time to research and go into the spa and beauty. How do you find that complements one another? Did you find, finding more in the beauty space that helped your anxiety in a interesting way?
I think definitely, you can all relate that if you're not feeling good, it shows up on the outside. Even if you're all dressed up, it shows up in your skin. And so I think beauty and wellness do go hand in hand. You see a lot of vegan brands coming up. We talked a little bit about some vegan brands before, but you see that what you put into your body and on your body really does count, really does matter. And I think when you feel your best, it tends to shine inside out. But I think in American culture, maybe Western culture altogether, it's like outside in. Like if you look good, you might be good.
Exactly.
But
so
know that that's not the case. That there have been several high profile people who have lives that some of us would switch for in a minute, and they've, they're no longer with us because they decided that, they'll take their life. I mean, Anthony Bourdain was, I mean,
such a force.
Yeah. I just don't, I don't have the words when we think that someone, depression, anxiety, all those things don't really have a face. And so I think that it's important to present yourself and look good, but I think it's more important to feel good and be good on the inside. So in ways, wellness and beauty absolutely intersect, but they can also be separate. And in a sense that if you're not connected, then I don't really feel like you're actually whole,
Yeah, like when they connect, they're powerful, but when it's purely beauty or like just getting your nails done or your hair done and you're not working on your inside, then it's nothing.
Ladies, I thought that was confidence. I thought like confidence was like edges laid, nails slayed, bills paid, what's good. Right. I felt like I thought that people saying that I was pretty was like, confirmation, word, like, I am. And it just kind of was like, well, actually, you're really not okay. But you still cute, but you're just not really okay on the inside. And so that level of self-love and self-care is strictly internal. You cannot buy it at Sephora. You cannot buy it at Gucci. It's just not possible. So that was a big SOS moment because I was that person that was always together. I mean, it was my industry. It was kind of my job to look good, but I didn't always, feel good, And so I realized that like self-confidence and self-love is not a prim and polished look. That's just it's really the inside, the internal works of your spirit, of your soul that is in alignment with the outside, right? But it's not the whole picture.
Yeah. And, oh yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, that's how I feel like if you were to create some sort of retreat or center that combines all three, like an eat, pray, love,
Yeah.
but like less carbs and more like eating organically and better. Yeah.
Yeah, wait.
No, carbs too. Carbs can stay. But I think that's such an amazing, beautiful experience because it's so true how everything happens more in a shallow level, right? From the outside in.
Also, wait, I just realized that isn't Eat, Pray, Love, it's like Italy, India, and Bali, and those are three of the places that you mentioned.
I was. I mean, a lot of people would joke and say things like, "You were the black eat, love, pray," or "Eat, pray, love."
Eat, pray, love. Yeah.
You're the black. You're the black eat, pray, love. And I had actually never seen the movie until I was actually traveling, and it was one of the movies, like on the list. And so I watched it, and I was just like, okay, where's my boo though?
Exactly. Where's the love story in there? But
they're coming.
Wanted to ask you what it was like, because that's a radical shift and decision to make anyway, like as any person in the world. Like, I'm going to actually focus on really attend to my mental health, my examine spirituality. Like you said, I know you said you grew up in the church. So then it's like over your adulthood, deciding what you believe and what you subscribe to and what your belief structure is as a whole, and separating spirituality from religion, possibly figuring out your beauty routines and rituals, traveling and experiencing different cultures. All of those things is a massive undertaking. And then I also know that mental health and wellness in general, like I mentioned earlier, it has been largely commandeered on social media by white people. And especially like with a lot of my close Black friends always mention how mental health, especially like therapy and taking time to focus on your mental health, is not something that when they were growing up was encouraged or really like talked about in their communities. And I don't know what it was like for you growing up, but your focus on this, I'm really interested and inspired by. Like you mentioned that book, was it Black Girl in Paris? And just the power of seeing yourself in a story. It was just like, oh, that it's such a simple thing, but obviously it doesn't happen in our country. Like, we only for the first time, even like as a woman, saw a woman up on the stage during election. It's like, oh yeah, like the power in seeing yourself in something is really strong.
Yeah, they talk about representation a lot, and it does matter in a lot of ways. I think like there's something that I read, that when you see a woman who's got it all together and her hair is perfect and her bills are paid and her accomplishments are shining, that woman's about to go postal in 5, 4, 3. You know what I mean? Like,
I think I saw that. Yeah.
I think that, kind of like the strong Black woman narrative has in a lot of ways, hurt the community because, it's almost like you're not allowed to have any bad days, or you're not allowed to ask for help. Yeah. I think that definitely played a large role. I mean, I was raised in a single parent household. My mom was a mother, father, sun, moon, stars. And so she took on a lot. And then, what she couldn't kind of, take on, it did trickle on to me. And so I think that narrative is just kind of like one of the toxic parts of components of our community. Mm-hmm. And things like, one thing that I will say that my mom would always say, you have a bad attitude, and she never really like fully explored like what it was coming, like why, like what happened today at school, or, and I went to, I was pulled out of predominantly, Black school in my neighborhood to a predominantly white school once my mom elevated and got, a better job. And it's common to like take, get out the hood kind of like thing. And instead of like regentrifying it and kind of making it a better place. Right. But, sometimes I would be in a bad mood, and I would be extremely, afraid or nervous about something that was happening, and it would just be chalked up to having a bad attitude. And you see it a lot with the phrase angry Black woman. You see that a lot, and it's to the point where, yeah, I am angry and I got a lot to be mad about, but, I also have joy, and I'm also, a whole person that has tons of experience. But by the way, I am angry, and these are why. Do you care to know why? And a lot of times people are quick to write you off. So I think a lot of Black women do suffer. During the election, I heard a lot like Black women are going to save the election and we're going to save the country. It's like, why should we have to? Why is it our
always? It's always falls on
why are
shoulders.
the mule of the country? I don't understand that. And so at the same time, we are also, often the most disrespected, woman on planet. So it's such a weird kind of space or avenue, or I don't know, a kind of
like a dichotomy.
Yes, it's just it is, and it's just a strange place to be in sometimes. I mean, I love being a Black woman. I love being a woman. I love being American. I love all the things that I am because I am those things. It took time to learn it, to love it, but I am all those things. But I'm not going to be what you think I should be. I'm not going to let you define what Black is or what a woman is to me or what American is to me either.
Yeah,
because my America is very different, than a lot of things that people think about when it comes to America. So I think that, when you think about your community, like the church, they will tell you that anything and everything is wrong, that is not, subscribed by them. And so I think a lot of people who would like to seek therapy are kind of shamed, or, there's really negative words used when somebody has like a learning disability or a physical, physical ailment or something going on, and it's not really like supported, and they're kind of still outcast in a lot of communities, and not just mine, but it makes people not want to be able to get help, and especially the men in my community, they don't have a safe space. And so what I did was I did create a retreat for women. And it was 2019. It was in California. It was about 13 of us. And the message that I got was that it was the first time they felt like they could take their armor off and lay it at the foothill, climb that mountain and see the peak and have a moment.
Wow.
And I had women tell me it was the best sleep that they've gotten in years, And so wellness is not about that foo-foo, fee-fee spa. It really is about like unplugging and recharging, connecting with nature. I mean, we did a lot of activities around spirituality and wellness, and we ate, as you mentioned, the fresh food and the fruits and all those things. And so it was, 4 days, but it really should have been 40. I think if 2020 taught us anything, we need to take breaks. We need to have moments. We need to pause. There's nothing so important that it can't wait, or that someone else can't step in and do. And I think that I kind of feel like some of us got it, but a lot of us are still trying to get back. I hear a lot of people saying, I can't wait till things go.
I know. What does that even mean now? Like,
It's not
there's
the same.
no such thing.
Normal wear.
Yeah.
Because ain't none of this
Also,
really.
And even if it goes back to what they're referencing, that was not a good place.
No.
For like, I know 2020 was hard, so it's not like, oh, everything's way better. But there's a reason why people had massive life shifts during that time. It's because we were running, it wasn't sustainable, and we were run down, and people were not taking the time, not forced to have the time to stop and look at their lives. And it was just going to keep going. It was just going to keep going like a hamster wheel.
Yeah. It's only going to get worse. And I think that we are experiencing, spiritual warfare. And I think there's a huge divide. You see it everywhere. I mean, you see it in the smallest things. And it's really sad to see. But if you read any type of spiritual, material, you can kind of feel comfort in knowing that nothing is new under the sun, and just to stay grounded, stay centered, stay aligned with your purpose, get focused. I understand that not everybody believes in a higher power, that's your business. But, for those of us who do, it's time to really get grounded and get very clear about your intentions. And a lot of that is come around just so much so of what you will and will not accept as work.
Yeah.
Or as a partner, if you're single and you're dating, what you just don't have the capacity to entertain anymore.
Yeah.
So I think that we are elevating. A lot of people call it, 3D to the 5D. But I could say that we are elevating into a new consciousness, and the old timelines will phase out and they will not resonate. Have you, I have a iPhone 4S in my closet.
Yeah.
If I try to charge that phone and use it on the network, it's not going to work. And that's kind of, what's happening with the processes of how we're thinking and how we're moving forward. And of course, not everybody. There are people who are very much so set in staying and keeping things the same. They want to go back to 2019 so bad.
I mean, what is the point?
Yeah.
And then you have some people who are already in 2090 because they're just so futuristic. They've honed this alignment within their spirit and they are on a different frequency. So, I just, encourage people just to get in alignment, with whatever is good for you. Like, your choice, your life.
I love.
Yeah. I feel like this country too, specifically, and that's where we work and we live, there's so many restrictions on how we can live and actually evolve into 2090. I feel like there's just so much roadblocks to that. Like there are countries that have, mandatory vacations in the corporate world where you're working. Yeah. I feel like if our country did that, I mean, do you think we could get to a point where we can? And I feel like that would make your business even better because you can have clients that are flexible and can actually do all these things that you're an expert in.
Yeah. you know what's really interesting? When I was in Japan, there was a city, and unfortunately I can't think of the name. They actually got a day for heartbreak. Like if they broke up with their boyfriend or girlfriend, they had a day where they could really decompress.
Are you serious?
And I just thought to myself, that is the most awesome, random.
It's so random, but it's so human.
It is. And I think that I think that I'll say this, anything is possible. I think that we have a unique opportunity to create the world that we want to see, the world that we want to be in. Personally, a lot of things, even now as an adult, a lot of things just don't make sense to me. And that I wish that we, didn't have to do or wasn't necessary. I was looking at a meme on Instagram and it was like a baby cub and it said, humans are so stupid. They're the only ones who pay to live on Earth, and it is kind of like when you think about it,
Wow.
it's
so sad.
There's so much focus on money. And when you think about money and what it is, and it's paper or it's digital, and it's like who created it and why and like what it means. And, and we get into all types of economic discussions and, philosophies and all those things. But it's just kind of like, it does create a lot of division. And I remember being in the 4th grade thinking like, well, if people are hungry, why don't you just feed them? I think that we have a lot of problems in the world that if we wanted to truly fix them, me, you, anyone watching this and other people, that we could, but some people don't want to see that. They just don't want to see it. It's not important to them. They're not affected by it in any kind of way. And maybe at times I think they get off on it.
Yeah.
It's like stupid bureaucracy too, at the end of the day. It's like when you want to get the littlest things passed, it's almost nearly impossible because of greed and
then who are the gatekeepers to these places? It's like at this point we literally have to wait for them to die off because it's like in other career fields and it is considered people at the age of the people who are in charge now, like 70s, even 60s are considered unfit for work, and yet they're running our entire country. And it's these people that are just like completely out of touch,
slowing us down.
It's like just die.
Yeah, just get this end. And
you can look at your own life. Like if you have your grandparents that are still around, you do things that they just don't understand, and they do things that you don't understand, and it's such a divide. I think a lot of times, at least in my community, there's not enough passing of the torch. It's like the light's over there and it's still dark over here, but if you would bring that light a little closer, I don't think that we're communicating enough. I think people are busy working. I think a lot of your grandparents worked extremely hard to just provide. I think a lot of them sacrificed. I mean, when you think about a 40-week work hour, when do you have time? I just want to know that if you're working from 9 to 5, you have to get up and get dressed. You have to commute to work. Then you have to be there for, those 8 hours and take lunch whenever Molly or whoever is the boss, says.
Right.
And then you come back and you drive, and then you got to come home and do dinner and undress.
Yeah. And you have to clean, you have to do laundry, you have to wash your car, you have to get gas, you have to shower.
Decompress, like whatever that looks like, if you have time to even decompress.
Store, like the basic stuff that still runs you down. Like
if you have kids, forget it.
Yeah. And in all fairness, it's like you only get 2 days, and it's like 1.5 day to like just be. And I've worked corporate jobs before, I know all too well what it's like. And there's some amazing corporations out there that do, great things in the community. They promote women and they say, Alyssa, you get to be the boss. You're qualified. You're bomb. Do it. And, there's some diversity and inclusion and support. But the overall, I think, pace of capitalism and corporate, they're just like neck deep in bed together.
Yeah.
And it's just causing us all to suffer. A lot of people are having heart attacks at 35, 40 because they're just giving their all to these companies who will replace you the next day.
Yeah, you're out and you're next in. It's just like not a humane system at all.
No.
Man, I want to end on asking you where you're in your grandest vision for yourself and Passport to Pretty. Where do you see that going? How do you want to evolve that? You kind of touched on it, but
I think that I am. It's been complicated to travel, but I did sneak away to Costa Rica and Mexico. I think that when I first created Passport to Pretty, it was kind of a spin on, like, when, people say the good life, I kind of like had a spin on the pretty life, but it's still essentially the good life. Things that make you joyous, things that, help you grow, things that make you feel, complete and whole. I think that I see it being, an inspiration to encourage women to travel, to get out of their comfort zone, whether it's going to Florida or Oregon, and, getting out of your comfort zone and just going to explore and challenging yourself and expanding yourself. But I think a large focus is going to be wellness, and that's mental health, physical health. I would love to see our communities have more conversations and rebuild around, topics of diversity and inclusion of, food. I think we're in a lot of trouble when it comes to, our food supply and our relationship with food. I would like to learn more about, finances and how, what does the future look like? Because there's a lot of things going on in the digital coin.
Yeah.
It's a lot. And I think that in order to help people have a well-balanced life here in this space, I think just kind of sharing knowledge and pushing the overall wellness, being the key factor and being super important.
Yeah.
I love that.
I'm extremely...
Sign me up.
Yeah. Extremely inspired by you.
Together.
Oh my God, I love it.
It's a community affair for sure.
Yeah. Honestly, the next time when it's possible to have a retreat like that again, I'm there. We'll be there together because...
Let's do it. I would love to have you both. It is...
Absolutely.
It's just so important. It's so important,
Yeah.
And as soon as it's possible, it will be happening again.
Yeah. And just like a community of women specifically, I love that because of course we have like our girlfriends, and then we all, at the end of the day, we all go into our, whatever our respective industries are, they're pretty much male dominated in general. Doesn't mean like your workspace is or whatever, but it's very much like I'm in music, and whenever anytime I've been in the studio, and I've worked with incredible people, like incredible men, but it's always men. It's always a man engineer, a man producer. All the guys in my band are men. It's just like, and those are, like I said, great people. But to have that experience with a bunch of women and really connect in that way,
you need that energy.
You need it, and it's really hard to find in an isolated, like for multiple days at a time. Just to be, I've never gone to a retreat like that. I know that they exist, but it's just like, yeah, I am really inspired by everything you're doing. And I want to stay in touch. I want to come to some of these events, and I'm really grateful.
No, definitely. Thank you. One of my biggest things is to bring women together from different cultures and, whole space. And eventually I would like, for men to be able to join us. But I think that, healing your feminine energy and your divine masculine energy are very much so, different. And I think that once we can all come together and have some genuine conversations, that's like one of my dream retreats, to be honest. But yes, please stay tuned, please stay connected, and, feel free to reach out if you ever have any idea or you want to, run something by me. And, you know,
Yes.
I think that this will happen and it will be amazing.
I honestly could have kept talking to her for like 2 more hours.
Yeah, I really want to have her on again, and I really want to do her retreat.
Yeah,
And I
absolutely.
encourage other people, if that sounds interesting, we're going to link her Instagram and everything on ours and in the show notes, so you can reach out to her. Like she's so warm and so smart.
Oh yeah. And her Instagram is passport2pretty. The 2 is a number 2. So passport number 2 pretty on Instagram. Definitely go there, check it out. Stay tuned, because obviously this past year was a little different, but she did say she has some things in the works for the coming year, and including the retreat ideas that she mentioned.
Yeah,
And
maybe a little movie.
yeah, maybe a little movie in the works. Stay tuned on her page.
Yeah.
And I love that she really embodied all of those areas that can seem isolated. She explained that, you know, beauty is separate from wellness, and unless they work together and then they're combined. And that's why, like, you know, getting your nails done doesn't mean anything, but if it's part of your whole journey of taking care of yourself, then it does count towards like bettering yourself. You know, there's a,
you got to get
made
yourself
that distinction.
Yeah, you got to get yourself right here, and then everything else is just going to be just a cherry on top, you know?
Yes.
And I love her emphasis on mental health and figuring yourself out. And it's beautiful. It's beauty from the inside out. And I love that. I mean, and who wouldn't want to go on a retreat where it's like a spiritual journey where you're connecting with nature, you're connecting with other like-minded women, possibly men in the future. And then you're also going to like a spa and you're learning what will make you feel good there. It's just, everything's just sounds so perfect.
I love what she said about ideally having men involved, because if there were, I mean, she could run it too and have a counterpart, like a male counterpart that does that for the men as well, because, you know, with the patriarchy and toxic masculinity, it does as much damage arguably to men as it does to women. And to have a safe space for them to like she even mentioned with the women, like, take your armor off and just be in this group of people, open up, be vulnerable, be who you really are. Men need that so much. And so if that could be like, the men have it, the women have it, and then, like she mentioned, there's a joint retreat at a certain point too. I think that's beautiful.
Yeah, it's needed and necessary. So thank you so much for being here. Shout out to Black Lives Matter. Shout out to us on Instagram and Twitter. You can follow us at the SOS Pod. You can also find us on YouTube, SOS Molly and Alyssa. So subscribe.
Did you say SOS? SOS with Molly and Alyssa.
with Alyssa and Molly.
SOS with Molly and Alyssa.
Oops. The wine's done. Shout out to our Patreon. So you can subscribe for $3, $7, $11, and you're going to help make this podcast even better, because it just will be. You'll get more content, you'll get merch, you'll get all the goodies. And shout out to Steve and Nija for being OG patrons. We love you. Thank you. I'm Molly
Cottrell.
I'm Alyssa Rosano.
And here's to turning meltdowns
into magic.